here with Jean-Luc from Lidu. Big smile. He told me I had to have a big smile. He told me I had a Gene Wilder smile. And we're talking right now about some exciting bottles that are in the store. So he pulled out five exciting bottles. He used the word exciting. I said interesting, and he said these ones are going to be exciting. So why don't you tell us and show us what you've put on the table?
Well, you said you wanted some wines that were a little bit rarer, harder to find, and instead of maybe bringing like a bottle of 82 Bordeaux or a 90 Burgundy, I thought we'd bring something.
I would take those bottles. I'll take them.
We drank them already.
Okay.
But I thought I'd bring things that I find exciting today. Okay. And I think the first one is a Palari Faro from Sicily. This is made from 100% of a grape called Nerello Mascalese. That's actually easier to say than my name. And this is coming from a tiny appellation called Faro, which is in the northeastern tip of Sicily, just above the Strait of Messina. Very high elevation, very tiny appellation. I think there's about 4 or 5 guys making wines there. And the owner of this winery, Salvatore Geraci, single-handedly rebirthed. Is that a word?
Yeah,
rebirthed this appellation back in the 1970s. And today I think is making some of the greatest wines in Italy. Okay. So that would be one wine that I would...
And this is hard to find? This is something...
This is hard to find, yes. This is not something that you can find everywhere. It's also, it's not inexpensive. It's a wine that sells probably in the $70, $80 range. Okay. But I think it's worth every penny.
What's the structure of this? What are people going to taste? What's the profile of it?
Like the wines made from Nerello Mascalese kind of remind me many times of, imagine an ultimate pairing of great Nebbiolo from Barolo and Pinot Noir.
Okay.
So it's got a bit of that grittiness of Barolo, but at the same time it's got the fine texture and elegance of Pinot Noir.
And what about this bottle? What's this?
Wow, now we're talking very hard to find. And we're talking great stuff.
Is this the hardest to find of the 5?
I would say those. Yeah, that was probably the hardest to find. That's the wine all the wine geeks want to have in their cellar.
Tell them about it. What
is this is the greatest estate in the Loire Valley, Clos Rougeard, from a tiny village called Saumur-Champigny. Usually the wines from that village won't get you more than $20 a bottle. This is probably more in the $150, $200 range. If you can find a bottle, this is their best vineyard called Le Bourg. Okay. The name of the estate is Clos Rougeard. I've been dealing with those people for over 25 years now, and they are actually, one of the 2 owners was a very, very good friend of mine. Unfortunately, passed away last year, and which is, first is really sad, but it's also unfortunate for the longer life of the estate, because now the brother who's left just sold the estate to a very big French industrialist. So this is over. After the 2016 vintage, the wines will be different. Yeah. Different ownership. I'm not saying they're going to be better or worse, but I think like they said, the moment has passed. Okay. And but for 50, 60, 70 years, this was the greatest estate the Loire Valley had to offer for Cabernet Franc.
And why so hard to find? How many bottles of this?
Production is very small, and they've been. And people have known about this estate for a long time, so the allocations are already decided all around the world. So they don't accept new customers, and they haven't accepted new customers for at least 20, 30 years. So.
And how many bottles of this are still kicking in the store?
A few.
Okay.
A few.
So people can get it online?
Yeah.
Maybe, kind of.
Maybe.
And what's the structure of this? What are you going to do with this bottle? Medium-bodied,
elegant, with tons of like ripe, red fruit notes. This is more like black fruit and spices. This is more like red fruit and elegant. Okay. But for me, it's one of the most profound expressions of Cabernet Franc that you can find in the world. Not extracted, always on an elegant side.
Tell me about this. What do we have here?
One of my favorite winemakers. I call them all my favorite winemakers, but those are all great estate. This is from A small village called Cornas
Yep.
in the northern Rhone, so just across the river from Hermitage, but very, very different type of animal. Whereas the wines of Hermitage tend to be elegant, very poised style of wine. Those are wilder, bigger. You find a lot of leather type of notes, maybe black olive, black fruit, spices. Those wines are grown on incredibly steep terraces. Everything has to be done by hand in those vineyards. There's never a tractor that goes in there.
Yeah, it's too steep.
Super steep. And it's really interesting. Last time I was visiting with him, which was 4 years ago, he was rebuilding some terraces. For him to build a vineyard takes him about 10 years. First, to clear out the area, 5 years. To build the terraces, 10 years. Plant, from the time of planting to the first vintage at the harvest, it's another 10 years. So from the days that he starts working on a vineyard to the day he makes his first bottle of wine is 25 years.
Wow.
So when I was visiting with him, he would tell me, I'm not doing this for me because I'm retiring in 5 years. This is for my kids. So just to tell you how wine is part of a patrimoine. You know, it's part of history.
So why this bottle in particular? There's lots of bottles, I'm sure, here from Cornas, but why this in particular?
I think it's one of the most dedicated and greatest artisan vignerons that you have in the village of Cornas. I would say between him and Auguste Clapp and maybe Pierre Gonon, those are like the best winemakers in that village.
And this, in the year?
This is a 2010, which is an excellent vintage. You know, it's something that you should keep in your cellar, maybe drink, maybe start drinking in another 5-7 years.
And price point?
Probably 125, 150.
So it's accessible.
I mean, it is, you know.
It's expensive.
It's expensive.
But it's not,
I mean,
people who are buying Bordeaux and Burgundies that are in the multiple hundreds or thousands.
Oh yeah, I mean, yes. But this is much harder to find. I mean, you can find it much easier a bottle of Lafite or Mouton or Aubryon than you would to find that.
Right. What's this?
What's this? Oh, it's a bottle of wine.
Oh, cool.
This is, I think, one of the really exciting producers that we have in the shop, a guy called Sadie. This is from South Africa, from a region called Swartland. And this is, you know, we have a manager here. His name is JT. He's too shy to be on camera today, but he's the one who actually kind of like all got us excited about this region and this producer especially. This is somebody who goes around and finds really old vineyards, like vineyards that are sometimes over 100 years old, and rehabilitated those vineyards and started bottling them again. And it's been doing a fantastic job. Now, something that's really sad is happening now. You know, the mining companies in South Africa are very strong, and they started to go after some of those vineyards because you can find a lot of ore or whatever miners find.
Dig down and whatever they're looking for.
So those vineyards are being threatened now this year. So I hope that Avon is able to keep the contracts on those vineyards, but you know, just like that, they could disappear next year. So that would be a really sad outcome. But this is really great stuff.
And what structure? Tell us what's in that bottle.
You know, it's made from Grenache, so you would think that this is something, you know, Grenache is a grape that makes up Châteauneuf-du-Pape. So right away, you're tempted to think, you know, 15 degrees alcohol, very big, very ripe. Those wines are made much more into a fine, elegant style. So very balanced, still with that pepper, still with that black fruit, a little bit of licorice and tart that you find in some of those wines, but I find in a more attenuated and finer way.
Okay.
Really cool stuff.
And did we talk about price point of this?
We have not yet. 50-ish.
Great.
So it's not, you know, it's not crazy price.
Nope. Is that the cheapest bottle that we have down here so far?
That would be either this one or that one. But price is not.
That was the one we haven't talked about yet.
That's the one we haven't talked about.
We're going to do it now.
Yes.
It's happening.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're still remaining with over 100-year-old vine. This cuvée is called Ante Phylloxera, which means pre-Phylloxera. So Phylloxera is a disease that ravaged the vineyards of Europe in the late 19th century. Imagine how much vineyards we have in Europe today. 90% of the vineyards in Europe were destroyed by by a louse, an aphid called Phylloxera back in the 19th century. Some vineyards that were planted on soil were not affected because that disease doesn't travel through sand.
Okay.
So you have some vineyards that are left. So this is Cot, which is the local name for Malbec in the Loire Valley. So this is over 100-year-old pre-Phylloxera Malbec from the Loire Valley. And it's a cuvée, they only make a few hundred bottles of this. This is not something that a collector of great Burgundy or great Bordeaux is going to look for.
This is nerdy.
This is, no, we're getting into like the nerdy stuff.
But this is hardcore.
But this is fantastic stuff. This is the kind of bottle of wine I want to take to my friend's house and drink over dinner.
Right. And the price point you said was?
Like 40, 50.
And can you find this in other stores, or you guys got this through a seller? How did you wind up with the bottles?
we get them from the distributor because it's a producer that we love working with. So we buy a lot of his other cuvées and we get a few bottles of this.
Great. So 5 bottles. We'll put the links below.
Okay.
People can check it out on the website.
Awesome.
I'll take all 5. Take all